Good afternoon, can you hear me?
Yes, can.
All right. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the seventh dialogue workshop of the Innovation Action European Project Shapes. My name is Vangelis, and I will be moderating this webinar, where will we have the chance to see firsthand the early results of the large-scale pilots regarding the first pan-European open digital platform that can facilitate long-term healthy and active aging and a high quality of life in the community. Shapes is more than a project. Shapes is a ecosystem on a European scale that brings together citizens, health professionals, technology, digital solution and technology providers, healthcare organizations, research and academia to the best interest of the former, that is the end users. We've got a lot of interesting things here today to present to you. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to pass the floor to our esteemed coordinator, Mac McLachlan from University of Maynooth, Ireland. Mac, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Vangelis. And also, welcome to everyone for this important event today. If you can move to the next slide, please. So as Vangelis has said, I'm talking from Maynooth University in Ireland, and I'm just going to give a very brief overview of the project. It's over 48 months. We'll be working with over 2,000 older people, and that will be across 15 pilot sites. We have around 300 staff working across 14 countries. And we work also across 10 reference sites of the European Innovation Partnership on active and healthy aging. The next slide, please. So we have a diverse range of members. If you look at this chart, you can see that the greatest number come from small and medium enterprises, SMEs, then universities, but we also have civil society representation, public bodies, research and training organization, and large industry. Next, please. So we in Shapes seek to build, pilot and deploy large-scale EU standardized open platform. And as Vangelis has said, it's to facilitate long-term healthy and active aging and the maintenance of a high quality of life within the community. So we want people to keep living in the communities where they have a sense of identity, belonging, and purpose. There's 4 elements, which is the Shapes digital technologies, the Shapes ecosystem, then the marketplace for the technologies that Shapes involves, and then the recommendations around the systems and policies and supporting infrastructures. Next, please. So this is really just to illustrate that where we start within Shapes and indeed where we finish within Shapes are both with the older person themselves. So in this project, we were very determined not to come in with lots of flashy new technologies and then see how they could be used, but rather to start with what we call here the persona development. And that's based on the lived experiences of older people. And then we basically ask the question, what is it as an older person that we can do to facilitate you living effectively and meaningfully in the community? So we look at use cases. In other words, how can people access services that they need to be able to enhance or maintain their quality of life? And then we go into a sort of plan design phase, very importantly with older people. And we then develop sort of mock-ups of how might this really work in practice. Again, getting feedback all the time from older people. These so-called hands-on experiments. And then we go into small-scale deployment and deployment in real life. So you're going to be hearing about the piloting results, and some of them still in course. So it's a very exciting phase of the project, and we really look forward to getting your views on where we're at. Could we have the next slide, please? You can see from this slide a number of themes. I won't go through them in any detail because you'll be introduced to them, but they range from working with people who have neurodegenerative diseases to more general physical rehabilitation at home, also psychosocial and cognitive stimulation, to the optimization of how people can take their medicines, and also to the idea of improving in-home and community-based care more systemically as well. And the next slide, please. So key things to deliver on in the SHAPES project. If we said that there were probably two key things, then it would be the two elements that you're going to hear about today. So the first, the governance model, which really means when you set up these new systems and you have them person-focused and you have a lot of very fancy technology, how do you ensure that they're appropriate, that they're safe for people to use, that the information they may share is secure, that there's appropriate oversight, and so on. So that's around the governance model. And then the results of the pilots, which you're going to be hearing about, where we have specific pilot sites, and then we have a number of different use cases. In other words, the ways in which people might use technology to achieve different means. So we look forward to hearing about that. And the last slide, please, is you may see this a number of times, but if you want to look at any of our activities, you can find them there. Back to you, Regis.
Thank you, Mac, for this comprehensive presentation. Indeed, it's a very exciting time from the project since we are undergoing the pilot execution phase. Next up is Sonia Grigolite from the Fraunhofer Institution. Sonia is the leader of the work package that is responsible for all the piloting activities and the major pilot campaign that takes place within SHAPES. So, Sonia, without any more further ado, you're up, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon also from my side. Yes, I've got the pleasure to lead the pilot campaign. And as such, I would like to tell you a bit more about all the different digital technologies we have developed, adapted, and interconnected in our SHAPES platform, and also how we will use them in the different areas of life to make the life of all the people in Europe healthy and active. First of all, we have got smart home technologies. This is to make the home more secure so that they can feel also more comfortable at home. Then we have a lot of digital health solutions. These might be apps which give you recommendations or robots. Then we have smart city solutions, which might be information about the different events and groups in your city and also about transport possibilities. And we have digital network technologies, which might be video communication tools. On the other side, sorry, a bit back, please. On the other side, the areas of life we've got at home. This might be a person who would like to stay at home in their own home, but maybe she feels a bit at risk, so she needs some smart home technologies which makes the home more secure and safe for her or him. We have got the area of healthcare for persons who have chronic diseases maybe, and they can use a lot of our digital health solutions to feel monitored and taken care of. For persons who would like to go out and about in the neighborhood, they can use all the information about the neighborhood events and their groups and how to stay connected. For persons who would like to spend more time with family and friends, we also have these video communication tools where they can chat, or also event calendar for events which they have with their friends, or also with family members. Next slide, please. With all of these different technologies and areas of life, we have got a lot of combinations, and overall we have 25 use cases. Each use case is for a specific need of older persons in Europe. And here are some examples. The first one is for persons who would like to stay in their own home. So they might have some smart home technologies with a monitoring system for the gas level or for a fire, or a smart electricity system which takes care of if the cooker is turned on at unusual hours. And in these use cases, they also have a wearable where the activity, like the steps and the heart rate, is monitored. And all these data together is used to monitor if there's an unusual situation for this person, so that the caregiver or family member can be informed. Next slide, please. In this use case, we are thinking of a person who is generally healthy, but would like to get to know more about their own health status to feel more confident to do things. So here we also have a monitoring system, like the vitals monitoring for the activity and the heart rate, also their sleep quality, the water and nutrition intake, and also a questionnaire which gets to know them each day if they're feeling well or not so well. With all these data, this is analyzed, and then this person gets recommendations how to improve their wellness and health status. Next slide, please. In this use case, we are thinking of a person who would like to get to know their neighborhood and meet new friends. So here this person gets information about sport groups or music groups or a museum and the transport possibilities, how to get there and what to bring. It also includes a video communication tool so that they can stay in contact with new friends or with old friends, and also with family members. Next slide. This is for persons who have chronic diseases, even multiple ones. This might be heart failure or diabetes, and they have to be monitored more closely. So here we monitor their weight and their heart rate, their blood pressure, their oxygen level, and also the medication list they have to take every day, so they get recommendations. And all the data we get from them is analyzed, and in type anything unusual or in something dangerous might happen, then also the caregiver or a family member can be informed. Next slide, please. Here we have persons who would like to train their cognitive functioning. We have several different technologies they can use. Here we have the dance mat, where the persons can move rhythmically on a dance mat, and this will train both their cognitive functioning as well as their physical well-being. We also have long-lasting memories care. This is also a combination of physical activities and cognitive training. And also we have a social robot within Shapes, Ari. So Ari can engage with the persons and also invite them to do games like memories. It can be perhaps all know from our childhood. Next slide, please. Here we are thinking of persons who might have a stroke or an accident and have to undergo rehabilitation. There are several technologies they can use. For example, a robot which leads the person through the rehabilitation process. Also, we have a 3D depth camera, and there the person can see on these smart mirrors the exercises they have to do, and the camera watches them if they have to improve somehow and gives a recommendation. Next slide. In this last set of use cases, we are thinking of older individuals with chronic diseases who would like to travel abroad or only travel to the next city. So in this case, they can use eHealth Pass. eHealth Pass is also monitoring the health status of this person and gets the activity on the heart rate and also the heart pressure. And this way, the person can be monitored from a caregiver back home and also feels taken care of. There are also other technologies for the accessibility, with ICC, the digital magnifying glass, or also a special video conference tool, which is easy to use for older persons with visual impairments. Next slide. How do we organize the Shapes Pilots campaign? We have got 3 columns to do that. First, we have the Shapes technologist and their digital solution, which we developed and adapted and interconnected within our project. Then we have the social scientists and anthropologists and psychologists, and they have done a lot of in-depth interviews within Shapes, and with this they have created personas, which are some sort of a synthesis of the needs of older persons in Europe. On the basis of these personas, they have created user stories, which are a day in the life of these personas. And with all these 3 columns, the digital solutions, the user story, and also the specific situation of the pilot sites, we have created 25 use cases. As Mac was saying earlier, now for each use case, we undergo the process with the mock-ups where we get user feedback from our participant, the prototype testing, and once again, feedback from the older persons. And now in this spring, we started with the most exciting part, the real life pilots, where we really see how our solutions work in practice. So thank you for your time. I go give back to Vangelis.
Thank you, Sonia. Next up is Annabella Silva from University of Aveiro. Annabella will be presenting for you one of the pilots and the actual preliminary results that come from that specific pilot on psychosocial and cognitive stimulation promoting well-being. Annabella.
Hello, thank you, Vangelis, but the presentation that is on is from Maria Jose. So I wonder whether she was before me or...
You could be more right than you know. Yes, it has been a mix-up. Maria Jose, are you online right now?
Yeah, I am.
All right, would you like to begin then with your presentation?
Yes, sure.
So a quick, yes, let's see, let's reordering of things. Maria Jose is from the University of Castilla, sorry for that, Maria, and she will be discussing the results of the physical rehabilitation at home. Maria, it's yours.
Thank you. So next slide, please. So pilot theme 6 is about physical rehabilitation at home. And this pilot is organized around 4 different use cases in which technology from different partners is involved. So basically in this presentation, I will focus on use cases number 1, 3, and 4. These use cases are integrated into the Physio platform, which works as a model that operates upon the Shapes platform. So let me give you some details about the Physio and the different functionalities it supports. So let's start with use cases number 1 and 3 that are intended to evaluate the perception of the user that are undergoing a process of remote rehabilitation using some video-based devices like a webcam. So next slide, please. 3 different setups are provided in order to make technology more accessible for older adults. The first image corresponds to the smart mirror version intended to be deployed in a shared facility, such as a nursing home or a physiotherapy clinic. The second image involves the use of an instructor holding a large TV, but it can also be used with a normal TV. It includes also a box with the computing node, the gateway, and the RFID reader. And finally, the third image is the smart mirror version thought to be deployed in the home environment. So these 3 setups have in common that they all embed all the required elements, and just the internet connection is required. Next, please. Physio is thought as a comprehensive platform for supporting remote rehabilitation processes. So it will work as the meeting point where patient therapists and informal caregivers can meet to monitor the evolution of the rehabilitation process. The physio system is organized around 3 major functionality. Next, please. We have the training functionality that guides the user through the set of exercises and number of repetitions that have to be performed during a training session. Next, the activity functionality that provides the user with the feedback about their evolution, and the call functionality that supports the direct communication with the therapist. In that way, we give the user the sensation that the therapist is by their side all the time. So one of the most valuable features of physio is its ability to adapt to each individual, and more specifically to each joint range of motion. So determining the range of motion is really important, not only because it is used as an indicator of how the rehabilitation process is evolving, but also because otherwise it will not be possible to perform the automatic monitoring of the performance, involving basically for the repetition count. So can we play the video? Here you can see the calibration process. Now, in this video, we can see what the real user think about the physio and the functionality it provides. So can we play the video, please?
Hombre, sí, está bien, hombre. Todo lo que se ve está bien hecho. Y se ve beneficio, hombre. Porque ya está uno bastante grande, pero en fin, que lo hago bastante regular, creo yo. Sí. Dentro de lo que cabe, dentro de mis probabilidades.
Yo siempre que pueda vengo. Yo ya hago aquí ejercicio, subo y bajo. He estado 3 años y pico en un carrito. Ahora ya voy con el tacatá. Así que mira, se voy mejorando mucho.
Hombre, yo opino que las personas deben de ser poco, más o menos como yo. Y yo, si no me enseñan un poco cómo va eso, que si yo estuviera bien de la vista, mucho mejor lo haría. No te va a parar, hombre. Siempre te dan ánimo de ver a personas, pues dice uno, pues voy a colaborar con ellas.
Pues yo, si lo ponéis, ¿por qué no? Yo estoy dispuesta a todo. A hablar lo hicieron mañana, mejor que pasado.
Es más interactivo y ellos pues le amenizan un poco más el ejercicio, ya que llega a una edad que se le quita la gana de hacer ejercicio, una forma más lúdica de hacerlo, y nosotros podemos también ver lo que es la mejora, la evolución, adaptarle personalmente a cada uno las rutinas específicas y valorando, y yo creo que tanto para ellos como para nosotros es muy positivo. Yo me he sorprendido porque la aceptación está siendo muy buena, es algo novedoso, es algo que ellos pues se preocupan por aprender, y yo lo veo, quizás al principio les va a costar y van a tener que practicar, pero no creo que tenga ningún problema.
So now regarding use case number 4, in this use case, we are going to evaluate the different role that wearable devices can play in the rehabilitation process. So one of the devices that we have considered is the commercial smartband Mi Band 4. This device provides relevant information about the physical activity, such as the number of steps, minute of activity, burned calories, etc. So the collected data is going to be available in the physio dashboard under the Health tab, and this information can be accessed by user, but also by specialists or physicians that are supervising the rehabilitation process. Can we play the next video, please? For this use case, we have also created a wearable device intended to mitigate the fear of falling syndrome, as this is one of the main reasons stated by older adults for not to exercise alone from home. So before starting the exercise routine, the user is going to hang the sensor from the waist and start the routine. And if during the routine a fall is detected, the smart mirror receives the event and launches the video call. In the video on the right side corner, you can see how when the fall is detected,
Maria, sorry for this interruption.
Going to be launched.
Maria, can you hear me? Sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
I'm your personal reminder, so you just have 1.5 minutes remaining. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have just one slide left. So. And to conclude, the video call service is also provided as a standalone service. So we have created a solution based on RFID tags that can have the photo of the person to call, and then just by approaching the car to the mirror, the video call is going to be automatically launched. And more importantly, because the video call service runs over the Telegram network, the person that received the call just need to have the Telegram app installed. So there is one video left. It's less than a minute, but feel free to play it or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. It's always encouraging when you actually see the older individuals take pleasure in executing those pilot tests. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now it's time for Annabella Silva from the University of Aveiro. Annabella.
Thank you, Vagelis. Good afternoon to everyone. Can you please move to the next slide? So I'm going to present the development and the preliminary results of our pilot, that is one of the 7 pilot teams, and that is about the psychosocial and cognitive stimulation promoting well-being. The next slide, please. So during this pilot, we developed and tested a solution that we called Dance Move, which is a web-based dance game that is connected to a mat device and that aims to promote both physical and cognitive functioning of older adults. It is a very personalized digital solution, as it allows the user to choose the music and the choreography that better suits him regarding its physical and also cognitive characteristics. The next slide, please. In the beginning of this use case, we had to choose the personas that we were going to have in mind when conceiving and developing our digital solution. And we chose to work with older adults that were relatively healthy or had chronic diseases and that were independent and lived in the community. And this was the framework that we had in our minds when we were going through the process of developing and testing this digital solution. Next slide, please. Here you can have a view of the mat and of the first mock-ups that we developed as a result of our team brainstorming. We ended with 4 mock-ups, then we decreased this to 2 final mock-ups, and we asked 5 health professionals that had previous experience in terms of cognitive training and also using dance with older adults. And based on their feedback, we chose the final mock-up that was transformed into a functional solution. So, and that one was the one that you can see on the bottom of the slide with the number 2, mock-up 2. The next slide, please. So then in the next phase, we tested our solution with 14 older adults in a very controlled environment and for a single session where we had them using the system and we also tested the usability and their views on what needed to be improved in the system through individual interviews. And also based on our experience of running the tests, we identified a number of improvements that needed to be made. The next slide, please. Here you can see one of the persons that participated in our testing using the system. So based on their feedback that you can see synthesized in this slide. So we had 14 participants with a mean age of 72 years old. And when having them assessing the system, the main findings were that the system in terms of usability scored relatively high. So we were in a good path towards having a solution that could be used for what we intended it to be, but we identified a number of challenges that we needed to address before going to the next phase, and that's what we did. The next slide, please. Then on phase 4, we asked older adults to take the system home and use it for around 4 weeks. And we assessed a number of outcomes. And again, we assessed usability, and we also ran an individual interview at the end of these 4 weeks, not only to have a feeling of their thoughts on the system, but also to understand how they used and how they integrated the system into their daily life. The next slide, please. Again, the results suggest that in general, the system was perceived as having a good usability. Over the 4 weeks, participants accessed and used the system between 8 and 17 times and danced for a mean of 6 to 15 minutes. They could choose either to dance a moderately difficult or highly or more difficult choreography. They tended to go for the more easy and moderate levels of the choreography. But in general, they were able to use the system. There were no major things to improve, and they were able to integrate it without big changes into their routine. The next slide, please. In the last phase, the large-scale pilot activity, we were able to collect data from 46 older individuals across the 3 pilot sites, UAVR, Aristotle University, and Palachi University. We had these participants divided into a group that used the digital solution and a control group that didn't use it, just continue their usual activities. And we asked them to use the solution for 8 weeks at their homes and to try and use it at least three times a week. We assessed a number of outcomes, including quality of life, physical and cognitive functioning, social support, and also usability. The next slide, please. Interestingly, the results of usability tend to increase the longer the person uses the system. So again, this is consistent with the findings in the other stages of the process, the high usability across all the three pilot sites. Participants get to dance more than 1,000 songs across at each of the different pilot sites, and they tend to choose the easy and the medium level of difficulty for the choreography. And this, as you will see in the last slides, was one of the things that they appreciated, the fact that they were able to choose what they wanted to dance. The next slide, please.
Annabella, we have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Regarding the quality of life measurements that we made, and as expected, they tended to be very consistent across the three measurement points. There were no major changes, and this was to be expected. But in the next slides, as you can see, there was a change that we believe might be interesting. That was an increase in the balance of the individuals from the beginning of from the first assessment to the 8 weeks assessment, suggesting that as this only happened in the experimental group, it might suggest that using the system might have an impact in the balance and the physical functioning of these individuals. The next slide, please. We also asked participants for their suggestions and also their experiences. So, and here I'm not reading everything, but just a few of them, just to point out some interesting things. So, in terms regarding technology, one participant said, "I was amazed by how Dance Move enabled me to dance and exercise at the same time." But there are also people that actually find it not as interesting as most participants. There was this participant that told, "I started dancing at the easiest level, and to avoid getting bored, I soon moved to the hardest level. Unfortunately, even that was boring after a while." In terms of user experience, most people say it was easy for me to follow along with the dance and exercise routines. In terms of health and well-being, that was also pointed as using Dance Move for dancing and the exercise has greatly improved the well-being, how people feel more energetic. Some participants were actually willing to pay for it, and they identified the amount of money they would be willing to pay. Some recommend that the Dance Move should be available for free, and it should be provided by the health services in general. There were also some recommendations for improvement, particularly regarding the match between the songs and the rhythm of the choreography. But in general, can you please move to the next slide? We found that the process of that we implemented to the development of this Dance Move solution was fruitful. In particular, the involvement of the users at an early stage. Users' feedback was very positive, and the Dance Move was perceived as being usable and with a high user acceptance. using dance move at people's homes proved to be feasible, and the preliminary results in terms of physical and cognitive functioning are promising, but to be sure of whether using it really has an impact on the physical and cognitive functioning, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annabella, for that. Like Max said at the beginning, this is a large-scale pilot. Shapes is a large-scale pilot. So it only seems natural and logical that we have to compare notes with other respective large-scale pilots that are being executed or happening in other large European projects. So with us today is medical doctor George Dafoulas from the University of Thessaly, who will be talking to us about the results of the respective large-scale pilots that took place in two large-scale European projects, Gatekeeper and Activate. George, the floor is yours.
Hello, hello everyone. I'm working with Vangelis in the Fifth Regional Health Authority. I'm based in the University Hospital of Larissa in Central Greece in many large-scale projects. And so I will refer to Gatekeeper and Activate. Next slide, please. At the moment, the Gatekeeper is running by the end of the year, thanks to the extension due to the COVID, and Activate was completed 2 years ago. Next slide. Of course, all these large-scale pilots, as you know, they try to address the digital transformation of the healthcare, the fourth industrial revolution. And of course, I will refer only to the local pilot site of this large-scale pilot. For the general topic and the general results, you have to contact the coordination team. Next slide, please. I'm also supporting locally from the Gatekeeper and Activates the Open Day team, which is coordinated by ETEL. It's the cluster of health. Open Day is a separate project that tries to coordinate all the large-scale pilots on different domains, not only healthcare. And so this is the larger picture that supports all these coordination actions of various pilot sites across the EU. Next slide, please. So Activates was, as I mentioned, was completed 2 years ago. It was the first generation of digital transformation. It was mostly on smart homes supporting elderly and chronic diseases. And we had automations and some alerts, but we didn't have machine learning in that site, in that project, as we have in Gatekeeper. Next slide. As you can see from the results of the Greek pilot site, where it involved 12 municipalities and various other partners and local partners, we managed to recruit almost 400, more than 400 older elderly. And you can see from the KPIs that there was improvement in most of the aspects, like the quality of life, the daily activity, and the fear of fall when we supported elderly at home living alone, and the self-perception of self-management of diseases. Some of them was statistical significance, some were not. Next slide, please. And the next generation is the Gatekeeper, where we, like in Shapes, we cover many use cases and many various type of partnerships. But the focus here is the machine learning. We try to have smarter services than Activates, where we simply had monitoring. Here we have decision support systems. Next slide, please. So here we have the coordination of CERT and 2 other universities, and end users. We have medical schools and University of Dietitians and local municipalities through the CitiesNet. Next slide, please. And in Greece, we have 2 use cases. One is the metabolic syndrome management for improving healthy lifestyle. And the other one is the chronic disease management of diabetes in Central Greece only, with 150 users. Next slide, please. And this is coordinated by 10 municipalities of Central Greece that has established this digital community that works together with the Regional Health Authority and my university hospital. Next slide, please. So you can see here why it is important to address metabolic disorders. It covers almost 25% of the Greek population, and it's going to increase gradually, and it causes many other comorbidities. So that's important to tackle. This is why it is important to tackle this use case. Next slide, please. And this is the various devices we use, as you have saw in your use cases. I saw some similar use cases with diabetes and chronic heart failure as well in one of your slides. All these smart trackers are connected with Internet of Things, and these decision support systems are supporting the users. Next slide, please. We focus on the problem with these devices is to focus which of the chronic patients should take them. So we focus on group 2 and 3 of diabetes patients that are over 65, that they have comorbidities, and so we think that the effort they worth the investment and the effort. Next slide, please. All these large-scale pilots, my experience with more than 10 years in project is that because it is a very competitive grant and application, only the best and the most advanced partners participated. But so all these smart health services are not but not adopted easily from the national health system, like for example in Greece. So I will refer to 3 actions that we have in Central Greece and in order to try to solve this problem. One is the Competence Center, which is funded by the structural funds of Greece, and I participate in this team in order to help to improve and maximize the outcomes of these projects. Next slide.
George,
the other one is the Innovation for Procurement project to participate with the Regional Health Authority, and there is an open call for twinnings at the moment for externals, where your hospital or your health provider can participate in order to learn from best practices of innovation procurement from the other pilot sites of this project. Next slide. And of course, in order to persuade my colleagues, the clinicians, you should publish as much as possible the results in clinical journals, not only technical. That's a big issue we face as health professionals. I have the honor to participate in one of these initiatives, so please prefer the medical journals to publish outcomes in order my colleagues to adopt more easily your outcomes. Next slide. Thank you for the attention. This is a picture of the university hospital and the medical school.
Thank you, George. Thank you for presenting those very interesting projects. Now, let's see how we can make things a little bit more interesting. And specifically, let's put our participants to the game. You can find on the right-hand side of the Zoom in the chat box, Vera has uploaded a link where it leads to an online presentation. Let me just share my screen so you can also see it from my end as well. I'm sharing. I'm guessing that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Can you see the online presentation?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, now let me give you a quick let's say tutorial on this one. As you have already seen from the presentation of the results of the use cases, we understand that we're talking about a very large and very complicated pilot campaign that involves many countries and even more pilot sites from all over the European domain. So to achieve such an endeavor, you can understand that there were quite a few, more than a few barriers, difficulties, or even challenges that we have to overcome in order to achieve those results. So what would you say these barriers are, these difficulties are? You can see them time-wise, because you can have this barriers before the pilot starts, at the beginning of the pilot and the design of the pilot? What are the barriers during the pilot implementation? And what do you say are the barriers or the challenges after the pilot ends? In order for you to post a note with your answer, you can use this template on the top left-hand corner. It's orange for before, it's green for during, and it's black for the after the pilot ends. Just copy the box and then paste it on a place onto the slide, and then edit with double click, edit your answer so that your answer can be posted, and then we can see it on the slide. We're gonna let it play for 2-3 minutes, and then I'm gonna collect those and see what comes after this collection of notes. Again, when you paste a template, be sure to double click inside the template and edit, add your remark on the respective slide. Very happy to see many remarks on the slides. So I'm trying to include as many as I can possibly include them. Thanks for all the notes. Well, thank you so much for all the comments and all the posts that you have taken the time to upload to the online presentation. I will try to summarize it on one slide. I'm gonna put it up in my shared screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So we're trying to identify the difficulties and the challenges that have to be met in order to successfully see through a pilot execution. We're trying to see it from the time point of view, what happens before, during, or after, and we also trying to include the answers through the trifecta of the technology and that is being used in the execution of the pilots, the barriers from participants' point of view, as well as what happens to the regulatory framework that needs to be in place. First and foremost, digital illiteracy is a very specific and very important factor that needs to be overcome when it comes to offering digital solutions to the elderly. Also, locality of the solutions is a key factor, because the language can be an enabler, but it can also be a barrier, especially when we're talking about engaging European citizens from many countries in using specific or the same digital solutions. Finding the right equipment is also one of the barriers that needs to be addressed. And of course, we have to figure out how to mitigate the dropout rate, which can happen during the execution of the pilots. Since we're talking about a pan-European pilot campaign, we can understand that we have different needs for people from different countries, but this differentiality between the needs is not only from country to country, but also from individual to individual. The low user acceptance is also a barrier that needs to be addressed when it comes to implementing this kind of solutions, the digital solution to the elderly community. And of course, since we're talking about new technology, we can understand that all the solutions need to overcome any technical issues that may happen during the execution of the pilot, as well as they have to overcome any complexity, because let's be reminded that we're talking about people that have low level of digital literacy. These people also need to build a kind of trust and safety when it comes to using these digital solutions to their everyday life, because we're talking about solutions that will help them or assist them in their everyday living and their self-disease management and the overall monitoring of their health parameters. Regulation is also a fact. We need to be in key with all legal aspects, all ethics have to be discussed and addressed with delicate manners. And of course, everything has to take place with respect to the data privacy and the protection of the health data of the individuals. To the technical part, we must always have in mind that the digital solutions are open digital solutions. They can actually support the openness of this data, not only for those who use it, but also in the aftermath when research projects can use the data in order to continue or begin new projects or new research. Interoperability is a key factor because we're talking about different countries and different digital solutions that need to have a transparent way of interchanging data from one digital solution to another. Last but not least, I saw that the cost is also can be a deal breaker when it comes to continue running the pilot after the solution after the pilot ends, because some people think that they can afford, let's say, a small amount of money in order for them to buy and begin and continue using this solution. But most of them would like this to be free or even reimbursed for their national insurance scheme. Of course, a very significant deal breaker for this for the continuation of these pilot executions would be the poor performance of the digital solutions. So this comes under the umbrella of the technical issues and the complexity and how they can actually deliver their results, their data to the participants of the project. So thank you very much for all these remarks. There have been quite useful remarks. We're going to be having a 15-minute break to take some rest. So we'll see you all back here in 15 minutes time. Thank you very much for that. Hello again. We're back from the short break. I hope you all had the time to freshen up. We will continue the presentation of the results from our pilot use cases. With us is Esperanza Pascual from Clínica Humana that will showcase the results of the in-home decompensation prediction for heart failure patients. Esperanza, will you please do the honors?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'm going to present the results for this use case, which is an in-home prediction for heart failure patients. So a short introduction to the use case. In this use case, we use the digital solutions for older adults and for medical doctors, which are involved as well. So for older adults, we provide them with the eCare app for registration of vital signs through linked devices through Bluetooth. ROSA application that provides daily questionnaires and the shapes front and up. The older adults just see the shapes front and up, and from there they access to the other functionalities. For medical doctors, they have two dashboards, the eCare dashboard and the ROSA dashboard, where they can check the results and the answers from older adults. And then we have other digital solutions that are the heart failure predictor from BeaconTech. The results from the predictor hasn't been displayed to the medical doctor because this is not a medical certificated application, but will be used for research. The devices provided to users are the 3 mobile labs integrated into one, and the devices. Next slide, please. So in phase 5, I'm not going to explain the results for other phases because we already did in the Work Package 6 meetings, but I'm going to explain the results for phase 5. So we developed this phase from November 2022 to January 2023. It was a 3-month intervention period, and the participants were patients of Clínica Humana living at home, over 60 years old, and they had a heart failure condition at stage 2 or 3. We recruited 9 older adults and 1 medical doctor to investigate the user engagement with the novel system and the user perceived usefulness of the novel system. These are the primary objectives, and there we have secondary objectives that I'm not going to explain here because they are quite extensive in order to check more in deep the performance of each of the digital solutions. Next slide, please. So the methodology was that the 9 older adults that participated in the study, they had a mean age of 83 years old with a 6.8 standard deviation. 55% were males and 44.5% were females. The medical doctor was age 55 and she's a female. Participants were asked to use the digital solutions on their daily basis. So the older adults, they were asked to use the devices, register all their vital signs, and answer to daily questionnaires and asked by Rosa. These questionnaires were questionnaires about how do you feel today, and some questions in order to investigate if they had any symptoms that could derive in the compensation. And the medical doctors were asked to check the patient's data on daily basis as well from eCare dashboard and Rosa dashboard, and to contact patients if needed. The doctor had an alarm system, and the data, when was retrieved to the dashboard, was already organized through a semaphore system, and depending of the color, the doctors already know where to check in order to prioritize their tasks. The data collection was organized in baseline, end of pilot, and 3-month pilot. And the baseline, we collected data regarding the eligibility of the participants, demographics, medical data, harmonized questionnaires, and some specific questionnaires for the use case. End of the pilot, we repeated the harmonized questionnaires, and we passed questionnaires, the TAM, SUS, and UEQ, in order to investigate the user perception and acceptance of individuals, which I will explain later. And the 3 months follow-up results are not available yet, but will be in the future. Next. Thank you. So some results about adherence rates. The inclusion rate was 25.7. So some of the people contacted couldn't be included in the study for different reasons. Some they were not willing because they are not used to digital solutions and new technologies, or some others, they were not eligible for this use case. Refusal rate was 28.6 of all the people that was contacted. Exclusion rate was 45.7 for the mentioned reasons. Some of them, they didn't have a smartphone. Some of them, they didn't have the heart failure condition that was determined for this use case, or other reasons. Dropout rate was 0, so all the participants that were recruited for this use case finalized the study, so the retention rate was 100%. Next, please. The results regarding the questionnaires was quite good. So the TAM questionnaire was 16.4 out of 21. These are results on average. The SUS questionnaire, which is over 100, 173.8, and the user experience questionnaire was rated excellent overall. So in the graph, we can see the use case results compared to the published benchmark data. We see that the most well-rated functionalities of the digital solutions were the hedonic quality, and the pragmatic quality was a little bit lower rated, but still was above average, and the overall result was excellent. So regarding the impact, I have chosen few questions that we ask in the final interview to users. So one of it, which is quite representing, is how has the use of the digital solution impacted your everyday life? So participants had this options that they could choose. They could choose one of the options or all of the options. So was not limited to one. So 55.6% of participants said that the digital solution impacted their health literacy, so increased their health literacy. The same percentage said that self-management of health conditions, so they like it because the applications support them in this regard. 33% they say that the applications support them for active and healthy aging. 11% improving the quality of life, and 44% supporting extended living at home. And no one said that the application and the digital solution created no impact for them. So regarding the interview, I have chosen some quotations regarding what did you like the most, what did you like the least, and some additional feedback. So in the what do you like the most, most of participants agree that they like it because they perceive a better control over their health, they feel more empowered. They like the fact that they can record their health and they can share it with the doctor in real time. And they like it, the application overall and the aesthetics. What did they like the least? They said that sometimes was a bit frustrated if they couldn't get the registration right because they didn't know if they did something wrong or it was a technical failure. Some of them complain about the weight scale because they had to be barefoot, and some of them, they are quite unstable. And the activity band, they say that the data transfer takes a long time and sometimes they were confused. Additional feedback, they would like to have more customized questions. These have been, I think, for the purpose of the use case, because we needed some harmonized data. The frequency of the questions and the type of questions maybe had been too standardized, and the profile of the participants is quite different. The medical profile, some of them check their blood pressure every day, some of them they check it once per week, and we asked all of them to do it on a daily basis. So they felt that they had to change a little bit their routine. And some of them said it was difficult.
We have a minute left, please.
Okay.
Yes,
they said it was difficult to learn how to use it, but the training materials and videos help a lot, and to have a contact person. So main learnings, if we can summarize everything that we have learned in this use case, will be that the target user, the ideal is that they have a medium to high illiteracy rate, or at least they have some social support from relatives or carers, because we have seen otherwise, if it's a person that is not very willing to new technologies, probably they are not going to accept in their routine. So the data transfer, devices model, Bluetooth connections, this should be reviewed and improved always for new models in the market in order to improve user experience. Quality training and support is really important to ensure retention. It helps to have audiovisual materials, videos explaining older adults how to use the digital solutions. Higher customization of digital solutions if these solutions goes to the market, so every person can customize to their medical profile. And it's really important involve end users in the development process, which I think shapes, we did it very good here, because we have seen that some participants that were the same participants in phase 2, 3, 4 were more involved and more engaged in phase 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Esperanza, for that. Very exceptional, your results, and also the learnings that we took from your presentation. I think that they will provide food for discussion in the later sections of this webinar. Thank you very much for that. With us, next up is Ioanna Vratsiou. Ioanna is from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and Ioanna is gonna presenting to us all about their system, their healthcare system, which is long-lasting memories care, or for short, LLM care. Ioanna, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vangelis. Hello to all. Thank you for the opportunity to present our use case. Today, I'm going to present you use case 3 from pilot theme 2. In particular, our use case is called LLM care, and LLM care use case is replicated within the pilot theme 2. A pilot theme that aims to address people aged over 65 years old, mostly living on their own, and who are in need of continuous help and care and support with technology. Next slide, please. The integrated healthcare system long-lasting memories, LLM care, has been exploited within this pilot theme too. LLM care combines state-of-the-art cognitive exercises within physical activity, and therefore offers an integrated solution both for the improvement and the support of cognitive and physical health. It provides effective protection against cognitive decline and actively improves older adults' quality of life. It is comprised of 2 main interoperable components: the physical training Fit for All, which is an exergaming platform, and the cognitive training system called Brain HQ. 2 other digital solutions have been embedded in this use case. LLM care acted, we can say, as an holistic framework by integrating the desktop-based application Talk and Play, and also the mobile application Newsome. As far as the Talk and Play application is concerned, it enhances communication and independence through a collection of serious games aiming at cognitive training. And also, moreover, the Newsome is another application, but that by exploiting artificial intelligence, AI, it automatically facilitates the summary of news from a wide range of online resources by excluding all repeatedly presented information and demonstrating this information in a unified text. So these 2 digital solutions, along with LLM care, Brain HQ and Fit for All components, have been connected, joint forces in order to be delivered as a unified use case in older adults. Next slide, please. As far as the recruitment process is concerned, our large-scale pilot activities have been divided in different groups by recruiting different participants. In our 8 older adults have been recruited, and in our colleagues from Germany in GEWI, that they acted also as a replicating site, 4 older adults have been recruited. Today, we're going to focus more on presenting our results here from Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, as we are currently in the process of collecting all the data, and we are about to move with analysis in the upcoming days. So the previous slide, please. So we have created 4 different groups. As you can see, there are the inclusion criteria on the right, on the left column. And we performed the pilots for group 1 and group 2. Unfortunately, we have encountered some significant recruitment difficulties, which have hampered our ability to proceed with the group 3 and group 4 pilot activities. But we are going to proceed with the pilot activities in the upcoming days. Next slide, please. All the pilot activities have been conducted in the context and under the coordination of the Lab of Medical Physics and Digital Innovation, which is the biggest lab in the School of Medicine, and it's the organization that participates within our Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in SAPES project. Next slide, please. So, more specifically, inside our lab, we have a living lab, Thessaloniki Action for Health and Wellbeing Living Lab, that acted as the main point that the participants' recruitment and the pilot activities took place. So the participants' recruitment has been actualized within the living lab Thesahal ecosystem, and also used take good use of the LLM care network comprised of municipalities and public entities, hospitals, rehabilitation centers, and nursing homes, as well as a great number of individuals, beneficiaries, in order to find eligible participants to recruit. The primary objective, moving on to the results, and having, yes, we can go to the next slide. Moving on to the results sections, I would like to highlight the main purpose and objective of our use case was to explore whether the LLM care ecosystem and all the integrated digital solutions can potentially promote the improvement of older adults and cognitive and physical status, and as an extent, their quality of life. So having this as an objective, we collected data from our participants. Here on the left, you can see some pictures, images from our participants that are performing both the cognitive and physical training. On the right column, you can see some demographics. All of them were female, and
Joanna, we have 2 minutes left, please. If you can.
2 minutes. Okay, so all of them were female. Let's go to the next slide. Because I want to present you some significant results with regard to their cognitive, physical, and quality of life. So in general, we conducted pre and post evaluations in order to explore whether our digital solution had a real impact on their status. And indeed, we performed a series of cognitive assessments, and we clearly saw that from the bar charts that participants had an overall improvement in their post-intervention, in their cognitive function, meaning in simple words that their memory, attention, verbal fluency, orientation, and their visual-spatial function were higher in comparison to the pre-assessment, before interacting with the technology. Moving on to the next slide. So very nice and significant results in the cognitive status. Let's see what happened in the physical function of our participants. And in terms of the physical assessment, indeed, we noticed a noticeable improvement in their walking ability and fall prevention, a very significant aspect in an older adult daily life, the fall prevention. We also saw some improvements in their walking speed. And in general, we saw that their general functional capacity and physical condition showed substantial improvement across multiple parameters.
1 minute, Joanna.
And
Sorry for the interruption.
moving forward to the psychosocial assessments, that these are harmonized assessments within the context of the SAPES project. We saw that we conducted a series of tests, and we saw that participants' quality of life, social support, and general self-efficacy were also improved, along with their overall health status in the post-intervention. Finally, we can highlight that their stress, their depressive symptoms, and their social isolation were also minimized. very nice and interesting and significant results in these three axes: psychosocial, cognitive, and physical function. And in our final slide, okay, there is also the SUS and the TAM assessments that were also positive results. We collect positive results, highlighting a very high level of technology acceptance and self-reported system usability. And for the end, we had a short video where in the next and final slide, we have embedded a video where our participants' main experiences and thoughts are shared. I don't know if you have the time to watch it. It would be nice.
Unfortunately not, because the time is running out.
Okay. I hope that in case that someone wants to watch it, he can he or she can access SAPE's communication channels and see all the nice things that all partners do. Thank you, and good luck with the pilot.
Great stuff, great stuff. It's quite astonishing what we have achieved so far, and we're looking forward to more results that will come from the extensive pilot actions in the days to come, the weeks to come. Now, like we did before in the previous section, we also have another guest from outside the Shapes ecosystem. It's from another project. With us today is Miss Laura Fiorini from the University of Florence, who will be presenting the preliminary results of the Italian Pharaon pilot. Laura, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you for your introduction and thank you for inviting me. So, yes, with this presentation, I'm going to introduce you the preliminary result that we obtained in Pharaon project. So, if you can go on. Okay, so, and go on again. Pharaon project is a Shape sister project, and it is launched almost 3 years ago. And we have 6 different pilot sites across Europe, in Murcia, Andalusia, both in Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, Slovenia, and Italy. So we aim to collect answers and experience from 3,400 users all across Europe. Our pilot sites are clustered on the domain of healthcare, mobility and transportation, smart city, and energy. Go on, please. But within this framework, the objective of the Italian pilot is to propose a personalized integrated care for afraid older adults. The Italian pilot is composed of 2 main pilot sites. One is located in Tuscany area, where University of Florence is located, and the other one is located in the south of Italy, in the research hospital of Casa Sollievo della Sofferenza. The main challenges that we have within the pilot is to test the acceptance and usability of the system, monitoring the health status, promote the social cohesion, provide personalized care plan on the basis of user need for formal and informal caregiver, but also at the same time with our technology to propose a support for the caregiver. So go on, please. And the methodology that we are using within Pharaon is mainly composed of 4 phases. So the first one is the needs analysis. The second one is the pre-validation of the technology in real environment before the long deployment phases where we expect to test our system for 12 months. And then following the results and analysis of sustainable and impact of our technologies. Go on. For what concerns the services implemented in our pilot on the basis of user needs, we have made the monitoring health services, which is devoted to promote and monitor the health status of older adults through the use of environmental wearable sensors, the stimulation of older adults, promoting physical and cognitive gains, and also the socialization. Indeed, we would like to provide older adults with occasion of socialize with other people by using technology. So, for what can you click on the link? For what on the video? So here you can see an example of the output that we did during the pre-validation, where we have the occasion to meet caregiver and facilitate the technology, because as you know, one of the main that technology cannot meet all the requirements, and the technology can be complex. So
this phase of validation allows us to deal with some user
to identify this barrier. We identify that some components that we choose are too complex for the older adults. We identify that people are stressed on the use of the technology, and this stress can be related also with a low values of acceptability and usability, but also that also formal and informal caregiver play an important role, because the attitude can influence the use of the technology from older adults. Next slide. So we take all these lessons that we learn and try to implement in the next phases, which is the long deployment. Indeed, we are more or less at the half of the 12 months deployment. Next slide, please. And here we play again this video without the audio. Yes. And now we are testing our technology in real home. Here you will see some of the adults that are using our tablets and smart TV for the socialization. And then we are supporting some preliminaries, because our experimental framework envisage the use of the questionnaire as
Sorry for the interruption. Perhaps because you're breaking up, the sound is breaking up, and this is perhaps due to the fact that the video is playing as well. So I would suggest to stop playing the video and to be able to listen to your presentation. What do you say? So is it okay, Laura?
Yes, okay. To give you just
for the benefit of the sound, so that our viewers and our audience can understand what clearly what you say and what you present. Thank you.
What we are going to show you here are the preliminary results of the usability test that we collected after 6 months of use of the tablet that you saw in the video and the smart TV. We have here you can see the pressure again the slide, so the animation can start. Okay, next here you can see that back here you can see that the usability that we are going to measure within the groups that we are measuring, that are older adult, informal caregiver and formal caregiver, is increasing after use, and the formal caregiver are the group which usability increased most. Next slide. Okay, then we are also analyzing the role that the social condition, the living situation is having on the techno-stress, because as I said before, the techno-stress, which is the stress related to technology, is playing an important role in usability and acceptability. And we found a very positive relationship between the loneliness scale and the stress related to technologies. And this we have also a significant difference in the stress perceived between the people that are living alone or are living with other people, that could be the informal caregiver or another person. And this is really important, because which means that if we would like to reduce the techno stress, we would like to increase the acceptability, we can work in collaboration with the people, with social operators, with the network on the territory to promote the technology, especially in case of telemedicine services. Next slide, please.
Laura, you have 2 minutes left, please.
Yes, these are the lessons that we learned after 6 months of project, which are more or less related to the recruitment, the attitude toward the battery of cognitive tests, but also we have some problem in the technology, the maintenance and the training of the older adults and informal caregiver, and the most important barriers that we have is to the engagement. How to engage people to stay in the test for 12 months. Next slide, please. Next. Okay, finally, this is the picture of the lesson that we learned within Paragon Project in these 3 years of testing and working in strong collaboration with all these facilitators. So we need to reduce the stress related to technology. We need to improve the training because we have low digital literacy, especially in the group of older adults. The questionnaires are not always easy, and it is not always easy to ask to people, older adults, to complete the system usability scale. We need to reduce also loneliness if we need to improve the usability and the acceptability. We need to find a way to find the return on investment for participants. Because if we would like to create value, we need to understand how, which is the point of the return on investment for our participants. We need to find the engagement strategy, but also we need to find a way to have the 100% technology that are really usable and reliable. Otherwise, it's too complex to be used with all the others. So I think that's all from my side. Next slide. Okay. If you have a question, just let me know or write me in the chat and I will answer to you.
Thank you so much, Laura, for your presentation. It's quite comprehensive and very interesting. I think that not only from what you presented, but also from all our previous presentations, I'm not talking only from this section, but also from the first section. I mean, presentation from Ioana, Esperanza, George, Annabella, Maria. They both highlighted that, all of them highlighted that the barriers that we identified in the first interactive session have common ground, are somewhat common within each and every pilot execution. So at least we all know what we have to overcome and what we're dealing with when it comes to implementing such large-scale pilot solutions. Now, we've seen what can cause this trouble. We see what can give us, a headache when it comes to actually implementing those solutions. Let's see from your lessons learned from your presentation as well as the presentation before yours. Let's see what we have learned so far. I mean, what are the key factors that can help us overcome these challenges, these barriers, when we need to implement a pilot execution of that scale? Again, you can see in the chat box that there is a new link that leads to another online presentation, which is titled, "What is important to successfully implement a pilot? What are the best practices? What are the enablers for that specific endeavor?" It's again structured within the time frame of what we need to have before, what enablers are needed during the implementation, or what enables. Let me just share my screen for you so that you can see exactly what I'm looking at. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. So again, I would like you to post your answer on what can enable the before, during the implementation of the pilot, and of course, what are the best practices or the enablers for after the pilot, when the pilot ends. Your answers can be from multiple points of view. Can use from the participants' points of view, the technology or the regulatory point of view. You can use this trifecta. So we're gonna give you like 4 to 5 minutes to post your answers. Again, use the copy paste function within the respective slide and the respective color to give us your answer. And I'm going to try to aggregate all of them in a summary slide. All right. Once again, like before, we have a great many posts and answers. I'm gonna try to give you a summary of what you have posted so far. Let me just put this up. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
So we're talking about what can actually enable the successful implementation of a pilot execution like the ones we've seen so far from the presentations. I think it's omnipresent, the fact that you need to have continuous support throughout the process and the duration of the pilot. That is before it starts, during the execution, and after the pilot has been executed, in order to achieve or at least safeguard the continuance of the specific pilot. It's also evident that you need to have the end users involved from the early stages of the pilot and throughout, of course, the execution of the pilot. Since we're talking about different needs and different requirements, this has to be set up from the very beginning. That's why we have used the user stories, we have used personas, we have used all these artifacts to actually capture what is needed from the participants' point of view. And we're talking about participants. We're not only talking about the elder individuals here, but we also are talking about the caregivers and also the health professionals that are involved in the pilot execution. Extensive communication needs to be in place between all actors, and we're talking about the health professionals, the caregivers, the participants, but also the researchers and the technical vendors of the digital solutions. This has to go back and forth so that feedback can be returned back to the technical provider and then adjust the respective digital solution. We've also seen that it's always better for the dropout rate if the execution of the pilot is fun to use. I mean, the digital solution is fun to use. So we've seen that games can be involved during the design of and the execution of the pilot. And of course, since we're talking about designing this digital solution, in order for the dropout rate to stay minimum or to be eliminated, where it needs, from a technical point of view, we need to have robust, simple solutions that are quite easy for the participants to use, as well as these solutions have to have a high level of customization so that they can really answer to their needs and requirements. And of course, if they can be dynamic, because the requirements or the needs may change during the execution of the pilot. So this adaptability from the technical solution point of view is quite remarkable, quite important when it comes to a successful pilot execution. We cannot go any further if we don't have a legal framework in place. That is, all the clinical protocols or digital solutions have to conform with the data protection procedures, the business procedures that a provider is following. And if they lead to a certification, then I think this is a foundation for the successful continuance of the pilot after the execution. At the very early stages, we need to demonstrate real value of the solutions. When we're talking about value, it's not only the cost effectiveness of the solution, but also a real value for the individual. I mean, the individual perceived, the perception of the individual has to be that this is useful for him or her, and that it will actually assist them in their everyday living and the improvement of their quality of life. I think this sums up most of the enablers that need to be in place if we want to overcome those barriers and those challenges that have been mentioned before. We're going to have a short break, a 15 break, and we'll be back at 16:10 to proceed with the rest of our webinar. So see you back in 5. Let's have some time to freshen up. Welcome back. We're back from the break. Now this next section is dedicated to the SHAPES project governance and the governance of the pilot executions. With us, we have the coordinator of SHAPES, or as I'd like to call orchestrator of our project. It's Michael Cook from the University of Maynooth, Ireland. Michael is going to be joined also by Melanie and Richard from the Maynooth University, as well as Alexia from GEWI. Michael, you have the floor. We're quite keen on listening to what you have to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Vagelis. So good afternoon, everybody. I know it's getting late in the afternoon, so hopefully this won't take up too much time, but what we'd like to do is present to you our emerging and maturing governance model that we're developing within SHAPES. And this is really looking towards the future of SHAPES, where SHAPES is going to go post-project. And that requires addressing a number of strategic questions. So this is one of those strategic questions, along with other questions like scaling up, marketplace and business planning and so on. So it is an important aspect to contextualize SHAPES within the broader societal environment. So we're going to talk a little bit about the SHAPES governance model, just give you a flavor for how it is evolving. And then we would like to involve you in some Q&A, some interactive question and answers towards the end. Okay, so SHAPES governance. Why are we talking about governance in the context of SHAPES? Well, this is something that we have dedicated a task to within Work Package 3, which is looking at the organizational context of SHAPES. And the question of governance really comes down to what SHAPES is going to be in the future, and therefore how SHAPES is going to be run from a strategic point of view. So we're thinking beyond just, as you normally have in a typical Horizon project, you have a business exploitation plan where the main innovations of the project, mainly technological and other innovations that are non-technological, are exploited by key partners within that project. But we're looking at this in the context of SHAPE having a real living presence beyond the project in one form or another. But that means asking a number of questions that include what SHAPES is going to be, defining what SHAPES is. So SHAPES is many things, as we'll get to shortly. So this task 3.4, the development of a SHAPES governance model, has involved a number of activities that we've partly addressed in the earliest deliverable that we have submitted within the project a couple of years ago. And now we're revising that and evolving that and maturing that early set of ideas into a mature governance model. So the earlier work involved exploration of scope, what governance means in the context of SHAPES, and what SHAPES is as a phenomenon, as an entity, identifying key governance stakeholders, who is involved in governance, aligning with SHAPES values and ethos, so what SHAPES is about, and if we incorporate SHAPES in some form of entity or enterprise, how do we maintain those values? Developing core principles linked to how SHAPES operates, and linking to standard governance frames like IT framework, enterprise governance of IT, or EGIT, and COBIT, which stands for Control Objects for Information and Related Technologies. Then you have ethics, you have data governance, you have healthcare governance, you have business and corporate governance, amongst others. And we pitched this in terms of an activity-centered Shapes governance model. So many governance models that you see tend to be, static hierarchical structures, but we see Shapes as operating in a much more dynamic, active, distributed, and participatory and diverse way. So recognizing all of those aspects. So the activities that we have been doing so far have been have included consultation with key stakeholders involved in both the provision and receipt of care services and associated products and tools. So getting the viewpoint from care providers, care recipients, and other stakeholders, people who provide innovation, develop innovation, people who are involved in management and other activities associated with that, and people linked to care recipients, care providers. We've been analyzing existing governance models, not only within healthcare, but also looking for models outside of healthcare as well for good practice. Selecting the most appropriate family of models and looking for the type of governance structures that might suit the Shapes ethos and the idea of the activity-centered governance approach. And leading up to something that we presented in our plenary meeting in Thessaloniki last year, the idea of Shapes being defined as a network. So as we'll see, Shapes is many things. It is a set of layered concepts, if you like. So at one level, Shapes is a technical platform. So we've spent a lot of time and a lot of development work in developing that platform, integrating it, testing it, piloting it, along with other digital solutions. And so from a governance point of view, you could think about, how that technical platform could be exploited in the context of a business case post-platform, mainly involving platform developers and everybody involved in that activity as well. So not just the actual coders, but people involved in requirements definition and so on. Looking more broadly, though, the platform itself is not meaningful just as a piece of technology, but we need to look at this in a broader technological ecosystem, because when we think about Shapes as a platform, it is integrating, and it is forming the central hub, if you like, for integrating technologies and the data that they gather and process. So this also brings into the loop health tech providers and innovators. Then when we broaden this out, again, we're looking at the organizational level. And this is where it starts to get meaningful from a human point of view. And this is really where the emphasis of Shapes starts to unfold. So when we look at Shapes as a socio-technical system, we're looking at the operational environment into which Shapes is intended to be to fit. So the socio-technical system is essentially your pilot site, or it could be your a reference site, or basically it is your organizational system that is using technology, using IT to facilitate their operational activities. And in the context of Shapes, that it involves the integration of Shapes within that socio-technical system. So it is technology, but technology mediating the human activities within that. Now, expanding it out further, and this is where we start to really get into the concept of what Shapes is all about. And that's thinking about Shapes in terms of being a network. So in Shapes, we don't have a single pilot site. We have a whole set of pilot sites and replication sites around Europe. And Shapes has to work for all of them. And it also has to facilitate the integration and the sharing of data, including large-scale big data and the analytics, health intelligence that can be generated across multiple different sites. And that can only work at the network level. So we're not talking about individual data collection processing activities across different sites, but we're looking at, yes, that of course can occur within the socio-technical system, but we're also looking at Shapes facilitating the collaborative activity between sites. And the idea of shapes as a network doesn't just involve those pilot sites or those reference sites or those organizational contexts, but also a whole variety of other participating stakeholders, which include not only the healthcare providers and healthcare recipients, but also people involved in healthcare governance. So outside of the context of shapes, healthcare governance more generally, policymakers, researchers, academics, people who have an interest in what can be done with data, with healthcare data. So that's the idea of shapes defined as a network. It's defined as all those other things as well. But in this context, we're looking at shapes at the network level. And then all of that sits within a broader societal context where we have existing policy, regulatory frameworks, standards, and so on. And basically the idea that shapes is delivering value into society more broadly. So this is how we are analyzing the meaning of shapes and deconstructing it, if you like, from a technical platform through the technological ecosystem, and then really emphasizing that in use in the context of both socio-technical systems and, more broadly speaking, the network. So when we talk about governance, we're really talking about governance at the network level. So this is the level where it starts to really make sense for us, below which you are looking at mainly business exploitation plans and so on. Now, when it comes to network governance, we've been looking at this in terms of network administrative organizations. Now, a network administrative organization, or an NAO, is an organization that provides certain basic administrative functions that allows a network to operate. Now, there are different ways in which a network governance model can be achieved. One, on the left-hand side, you have the idea of self-governance, which is kind of an organically evolving and self-regulating, self-governing system. Now, there's a lot of complexity and difficulty in that, in terms of maintaining standards and having policies and regulating activities and so on. An alternative model is the lead organization taking a much more central role and directing kind of the activities of a network. Where we prefer to go is the idea of the network administrative organization, which is managing the administrative functions that are concerned with the operation of a network that allows for a lot of organic and independent activities within that network. So this isn't a highly top-down or hierarchical structure, but it does provide a certain amount of structure in the form of regulation and compliance and codes of practice, and also providing some fundamental administrative functions, which include amongst others, the following: revenue generation, the idea that the shapes as an entity has to have a revenue stream, even if it is a non-profit. We are also managing a marketplace where, if shapes is a non-profit overall, we are still facilitating the business activities of many partners who are participating in the network overall. So the network, I should say, includes not only the aforementioned actors, but also innovators, product developers, tech innovators, and so on, engaging with customers through the Shapes marketplace. Moderating and quality assurance of content, facilitating policy development, ensuring regulatory compliance to make sure that the activities of Shapes is consistent with existing regulatory frameworks, supplying IT governance, facilitating research activities and innovation management, and coordinating communications and dissemination activities and conflict resolution. So these are some of the core functions that the NEO would facilitate. But it's really about allowing for, like I said before, more organic activities emerging from within the network, but just bounded by a number of governance frameworks, if you like. So what we would like to see developing is that Shapes as a network would involve enticing people to see the value in it's not simply about becoming a member of a network, but it's really about becoming a member of a community of actors who are collaborating, sharing information, sharing best practice, trialing products, purchasing products, doing business, providing services, etc. So there would be economic benefits through participation. That can be on the customer side in terms of cost reduction. The idea of market shaping is something that is one of the philosophies that we work with in terms of having a fair marketplace where through a collective process of negotiation, we can have a situation where fair and sustainable costs can be maintained and for the provision of services and qualities, and products. Learning and innovation, so facilitating people learning from each other, from best practice, like I said, from research activities that occur within the network. Legitimacy and status, so conveyed through affiliation and endorsement from peers with higher status or with greater resources. And effectiveness, so improved service delivery and client satisfaction as a result of network structures and interactions. And this is based on a number of key values that are that underlie network governance models overall. So the idea of trust, so through ongoing interactions and collaborations, the idea that the participation in the network is about engaging in mutually beneficial activity, and everybody should be gaining something. So for example, if we're sharing our data, we should be getting something back for that. And then transparency and accountability is a very important and critical value, if you like, for a network. So trust and transparency and accountability, a network can't really function without those. Now, just to give you an idea of the kind of structure that this would involve, and it might make a bit more sense on the next slide, but the idea of having a number of bodies within the network administrative model, which is an evolving model, and we're keen to get some impact. Some feedback from you related to a number of key questions that we have a little later on. But at the core of this, we would have a steering group, which is composed of the NAO itself, which is managing the operational activities, and that's governed by a board of directors. And this is also involving a number of action groups that have key functions within the network. So advising and developing policy around professional issues, for example, the professional action group, the community action group, looking at it from the perspective of citizens and community actors, the scientific action group, innovation and knowledge management action group, quality regulation and ethics action group, and the business action group. So all of these collectively compose the General Assembly, which is through a representational process, represent all members of the SHAPES network that would be elected to represent the members within those action groups and within the board of directors, within the steering group overall. So this gives you something of an idea of how this kind of works structurally. It's quite a dynamic system, but the idea at the center, you have a steering group, which is composed of participants from the working groups who are selected from members, a broader membership of the network. And this also involves collaboration with actors at a national level and regional level, people with professional expertise from an integrated care perspective, sustainability experts, other networks, and also the EU level as well. So looking at policy and where SHAPES fits in to a broader health and social care governance framework. So what we've seen of shapes so far, including the technologies that shapes is composed of, the marketplace, the pilot sites, and pilot activities that are part of the operational work that those sites perform. This is intended to facilitate the interaction between all of those actors in a way that is not overly hierarchical, not overly bureaucratic, and allows for as much organic activity as possible. So where the Shapes General Assembly and more strategically and more operationally the NEO and the steering group are facilitating that activity between participants. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the Shapes governance model and the direction in which it's going. At this point, I'll hand over to Alexia from Gavi, who will take over the dialogue aspect. Thank you, Alexia.
Thank you very much, Michael, for bringing us to the point where we can now all discuss together, and a couple of questions that came up during the last few months, and since most of us saw each other in Thessaloniki. I am going to share my screen now. Please all go to slido.com. You can either photograph that QR code that you see now, or just join slido.com. And when prompted, enter the code below 2705. That was wrong. Sorry, 2750652. And you should all be able to join without registering. You can participate to the survey as a guest. You don't need a Slido account. So we prepared a few questions that we wanted to discuss with you. Now I assume that most of you have entered the code, but I see that it is already also indicated in the chat. So for those of you joining in a few seconds or struggling with a number of devices that you have activated at the same time, please check the chat for slido.com and the code of the Slido poll. I'm going to start now with the first question. And this is about levels of participation. At what level do you envisage the participation of individuals in Shapes network governance? And you should see a number of options. Maybe someone can confirm the number of options that are shown on the screen.
4 options: local, regional level, national level, European level, not at all.
So would you rather envisage participation of individuals? Important to stress the fact that we are looking at the participation of individuals in Shapes governance network at the local, regional, national, European level, or maybe none of all of that, none of the above. I will wait and give you all some time. Obviously forgot to start my stopwatch. But I think it must have been about a minute. So I'm going to show the results now. So we have a number of those of you who participated, and the numbers are still rising. We have 21 answers. And most of you, most of our participants today, would prefer a participation of individuals at the local/regional level. Now, we have 2 more questions in that deck of slides, and I would like to go through the 2 other questions and then to open the discussions, because you'll see the questions kind of build upon each other. So I will move on to the second poll. Shapes will foresee a membership fee for participating organizations to the network. Should membership be free of charge for individual network members? So again, we're looking at individual members participating into the network Shapes. Should they pay in order to participate, or should the participation of individual members be free of charge? Should it be free of charge? Yes. Or should it not be free of charge? And again, I have my stopwatch in front of me and I forgot to start it. So I'm just going to go by general time feeling. So I see I have about roughly the same numbers of participants, 21. So I think everyone has now entered their replies. Let's see how we agree on that question. We've got an overwhelmingly yes, participation for individuals should be free of charge in order, we'll discuss that in a minute. Okay, thank you very much for entering all your replies.
Melanie here. I'm going to start the stopwatch for the next one.
Oh,
3 minutes,
thank you.
right?
That's very kind. Yeah, I'm obviously not in my abilities to multitask. I think have gone for the day. Thank you, Melanie. Third one. Oh. So here we're going to see the immediate answers. How long should the Shapes General Assembly's term lengths be? So if we vote for the General Assembly, how long should the General Assembly be in place for? And how often should those elections be taking place? Every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, every 4 years, or every 5 years or longer? How often do we want to have a new board of directors, new leaders, or new persons out of the Shapes network that will be representing the different action groups that Michael has just presented in that chart with a big pie. We've got the steering group composed of the NAO and the board of directors, and we've got all the action groups representing different type of members, but also different type of issues that the network will govern. So I see here as well, Melanie, I believe we have reached the 23 participants that have been actively engaging in the poll. So I can
proceed. That's fine. Otherwise, we still have a little bit of time left.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this Slido poll, and I would like maybe to open the discussion, or maybe I can go back to the results. Maybe it will help us also reach out to you. Let's start at the level of participation. A large number of you have indicated that the participation of individuals should be rather at the local regional level. Do we have a volunteer wanting to describe on the how and the why the participation of individuals can most easily be taken care of at that level of governance?
I have access to the microphones, actually. I wonder.
If somebody would like to speak, they can ask to be unmuted, and then we can unmute them. So you don't have that ability yourself, but we can unmute people if they want to. I do not currently see any raised hands.
Okay, and there's nothing in the Q&As that everyone can type in. Okay, maybe on the second question, does anyone want to comment on the free of charge type of membership for the individual members? Vera, you are our eyes and ears.
I do not currently see any raised hands or comments in the chat.
Okay. Maybe on the third question or on a mix of all of them.
We actually have a question in the chat on what individual members, what they could bring. The question, not an explanation. It's like, what would individual members bring to the Shapes network?
Excellent. Yes, I see the question too, Evert-Jan. Well, they could participate in order, for example, to elect regional or local representatives that would then convey their interests into the action groups. The Shapes network itself could have then the representatives included in maybe in some of the strategic discussions as well. These were some of the thoughts that we are integrating in our deliverable.
Can I just add to that? So we're looking at the participation in two ways. One is participating in governance, and the other is participating in the network. And the idea is that anybody can become a member of the network. You can have organizational, institutional members, but you could have individuals who have an interest in participating in some of the forums, discussions, sharing experiences, and so on within the network. Now, it would be a different type of membership than an organizational or institutional membership, and certainly that would be different from a corporate membership or a business-oriented membership, which is participating in the marketplace. But any citizen should be free to participate in that, engage with other people, maybe share experiences. But also, you could be an individual, could also be an academic who has an interest in what in data, in doing research, could be members of the press and media who have an interest in looking at what trends are developing within health and social care around Europe. So we do wish for Shapes to be as open and inclusive as possible, but there would be different types of or categories of membership. So this is why we posed those questions, which is trying to get a sense of what the implication of an individual membership would be. So is it something that they should have to pay for, or is it something that should be free, where most of the revenue would be generated from the organizational and business-oriented membership? And the first question was remind me, Alexia, very short memory span.
What would individual members bring to the network?
No, the first question that we asked.
Oh, sorry. The question was at what level should individual participants engage?
Yes. So again, this is linked to when it comes to governance, but also participation in general. The idea is that anybody from anywhere could engage with members from anywhere else in the network. But from a governance point of view, should it work in the same way? Should there be local or regional or national priorities that are emphasized by people within those regions, and then people elected representatives representing them and their interests at the broader level at the GA?
add to that, that those different action groups that you did see, especially the community action group was supposed to, represent individual members, or that they could join. But as you did see earlier on in the conversation, when it was asked, about the pilots, what could we do better? One of the answers was that we need to actively involve people at all stages of the process, and like Shapes is supposed to be a very dynamic network. So what the pilots have been, addressing now, the challenges that they have been addressing today may not be the same in the future, and we need to involve people on an ongoing basis in this dialogue. So, and that is something that individual members could bring to the network.
So thanks very much for having us reflect on those issues. We have another set of 2 questions this time, so it won't take too much of your time, hopefully. So you can stay on Slido. It's just a separate code. This time it's 1669742. 1669742. It's a new poll consisting of 2 questions with more open questions this time. First, still as an individual, or maybe as an organization, or maybe as a researcher, we were wondering what health and care related issues should the Shapes network address to make an active participation attractive to you?
Alexia, we can't hear you anymore.
I can hear you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Well, we can see hopefully on the slide the question that was asked. I hope you can all already participate. I haven't left as much time this time. I see the first responses coming in. What health and care related issues should the Shapes network address to make an active participation attractive to you? You can answer several times, and there isn't a strict word limit, so it can be very short sentences. In terms of raising the attractiveness of engaging in such an open network, as described by Michael. Maybe also does shaping the network, engaging in those governance level, does it make it more attractive? So consider the different types of active participation that maybe in other networks make out of the most interesting benefits. Now I see the chance to meet nice people. This definitely shouldn't be free of charge. I'll be scrolling back and forth a little. Maybe I'm going to pick up on that one on the follow-up mechanisms, because I believe it's also something that we have seen in Vagilis's slides in terms of what were good lessons learned in the use cases for after the use case, or like the what happens after. Maybe whoever suggested follow-up mechanisms. Maybe you could share with us what type of mechanisms you have in mind. Maybe in the chat or in the Q&A or by raising your hand. All right, well, I am conscious of time, so in case no one, but maybe you can also provide more detail on those. We're going to keep obviously all your answers, and if you feel like engaging with us on those particular points, please do so even after the meeting. We will drop an email in the chat that everyone, even participants that are not Shapes partners, obviously can reach out to. I've got one more question before I let you go. You have seen these action groups that Michael has shown or shared with us in that slide. We have identified a number of action groups that we feel would be highly relevant or even absolutely essential to the good functioning of the network Shapes, and that cannot be, like, the governance model could not be thought without. So we have been envisioning the action group of the community, representing the network users, the network members, and the members of the public. We have the action group of the health and care professionals, and we have the action group of the researchers in academia. One, making sure that ethics regulations, that's a very good point, Vasilis. I see that you ask for sharing that again. I will do so in just a minute. There we are. And now I hope that I will share it. I'm not going to go full screen just in case you then don't see, but you should be able to see that slide of the Shapes network in the same manner as Michael shared it earlier. So we have community professionals. We've got one representing members doing business on the platform. And then we've got 3 action groups, again, representing science, that was saying research, academia. We've got one action group dedicated to knowledge and innovation management, and another one dedicated to the quality control and or assurance, the regulation and ethics that obviously need to be observed within the network. I believe I can't actually share a print screen in a Zoom chat. I'm going to try anyway, just in case. Just a moment. No, it won't let me do that. But so I'll go back to sharing my Slido. So you can see further suggestions provided by today's participants. Excellent. So we have suggestions concerning particular groups of the public, such as older adults, such as particular type of end users, I suppose, or end users as such. We have an action group suggested on procurement. We've got policy twice, accessibility, nutrition as an action group dedicated to that topic, healthcare like as an overall topic, data, and one on environment and sustainability. So this was our way to reach out. Interop is coming in. Thank you very much. We'll keep it open. So even after this webinar ends, it's if you still have the link open, I will not close the poll. Please feel free to still enter some responses. Thank you very much for playing that little game with us and for jumping in and giving us those answers and your views on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexia. Thank you, Michael, Melanie, Richard. Thank you all for showcasing the actual value of this project and what strong governance can actually offer such initiatives with respect to not only the end users, the citizens, but also every other actor that participates actively, representing universities, the industry, the health and care providers, and everyone that actually comprise this unique, let's say, ecosystem on a pan-European level. I'd like to share, let's say, a summary slide as a wrap-up slide that summarizes all that has been mentioned, not only during the presentations that our esteemed speakers have already given, but also the specifics that Michael and Alexia have showcased within their very interesting gaming via Slido, as well as the presentation that Michael has given us on the governance administration of the Shapes project. Let me just share my screen. I'm figuring that you can actually see my screen now. Is that okay? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's pretty much a selection of what has been already mentioned during all the very comprehensive presentations, and it has to be served. It has to serve as a takeaway for our participants today in this webinar. These are, let's say, the key enablers that can lay the path for a successful implementation of such a pilot endeavor. I want to single out just 2 or 3 of them. Continued support for all actors. When we say all actors, I mean not only the actual citizens or the actual patient, but also everyone who supports them, not only in their home, like the caregivers, but also in the providers, and also from the technical vendors. I mean, this support has to go back and forth so that we can actually conceptualize what is needed for the successful implementation of those pilot executions. We also need to involve the users at the early stages of the implementation. And of course, not only at the early stage, but also during the whole project, that we need to demonstrate clear value for everybody that is involved. Value with respect to cost effectiveness, value with respect to usefulness and efficiency. And this has to go out to the patients and of course the business value that the actual technical vendors need to draw from their participation in this project. There has to be a dynamic, there also has to be a dynamic relationship between those technical solutions and the participants, the patients and the caregivers and the providers during the pilot execution. That means that not only a robust and simple digital solution can do the job, but also if it can actually adapt to the needs and the requirements that may change during the running of the pilot, as well as, of course, after the pilot. And of course, all of this has to be given in a way that secures the trust and the transparency, so that it can boost up all the prerequisites that are needed for the adoption of those digital solutions. And we would like to say those health solutions, not only by the participants, but also by the health professionals or the caregivers. So that said, let me just stop sharing the screen. That said, I would like to extend our appreciation for all of the speakers who shared their results. Also, our coordinator that has been leading us to our destination from the very beginning. Special shout out to our Shapes partner AIDS Platform Europe and its representative Vera Herman, whose dedicated work made this workshop come to pass. Last but not least, we'd like to convey our very warm thanks to all interpreters, Greek and international, and all of the people that are responsible for the live captions. Be sure to stay tuned and keep yourselves informed on the programs of the pilots. You can visit our website for updates and news, and also don't forget to follow us on our social media. Thank you again for your useful feedback during the interaction section. It has been great to have you all here with us. Take care and see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you, Vagelis. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Thank you, Vera.